Hey everybody, my name is Jack Allen Willard. Name of our video, Low Ejection Fraction Cured. Cured. And I have to give thanks to God for that. Thanks to my Savior Jesus for that. I have to say that. Um, it was just a few months ago I did a video entitled Low Ejection Fraction Distraction. It got modest hits, not as many as I was hoping. I did a little promotion on it. Obviously, we have much more successful videos at this channel, the Virtual Church of the Disillusioned. But I believe in this video, and what I'm sharing here needs to be heard by the right people. If you know someone who has any kind of heart failure, or if that's you, or if you have specifically low ejection fraction, which deals with a blood pump, um, they need to see this video. It'll be an encouragement to them. So spread the word. Spread the word about this video. I'll do my best to promote it here. And subscribe. Let people know about this video that may be very scared right now with something that they're going through. I know I was. And what I'm going to share is pretty amazing. And I didn't see much of this on the internet at all. There are videos about low ejection fraction, but I didn't see any videos like the one I'm doing right now. So it'll be an encouragement to someone, maybe you. I hope so. I hope so if you're in that boat, if you're in that particular situation, or pass it on if you, again, know of someone who is. It was 2019 when I went for a cardiac workup. Doctor that I've had for a long time, cardiologist that I had for a long time, and I know pretty much what to expect. Soup to nuts. I'm going to go in for a stress test. I usually pick the treadmill. I don't like that thing where they inject medication into you. My lady had a real negative reaction to that, and they had to give her some medication to stabilize her. She didn't like that at all. I don't like that. I like to do the treadmill. I can do that. So that's what I did. And I went in for that special CT score, calcium score, which is like 4 minutes in the CAT scan machine. Most insurance companies, and I have great health insurance from New York City. I was a peace officer for 19 years. They don't pay for it, but it's only $65. So you get that done. And then you get your echocardiogram. And everything that time in 2019, everything was coming up roses. My CT score, I think, was 35, which is not bad at all. And uh, everything looked good with the echocardiogram. They do the carotid artery test, and that looked fine. And then I knew I was set to, I figured 2021. Don't have to do this every year, you know? But then something called COVID, coronavirus, came along, and I skipped, of course, I skipped 2020 when everyone was running around with two masks. And we were all, this was new to us. We were petrified. And living here in the state of New York, you know, there were people dying. There were people, they didn't have the proper treatments that they would develop at that time. But soon we started having vaccines and what have you. But I skipped 2020 and I skipped 2021. I did not go. I saw my GP, but I didn't go in for my cardiac workup. I didn't do that. Maybe I had a echocardiogram, or not an echocardiogram, but a regular cardiogram in the office where my GP was, but I didn't have my normal soup to nuts cardiac workup until like January of 2022 this year, as I'm recording this video. And uh, it wasn't like the 2019 one. Um, I I hadn't gotten to do the stress test because I'm on a beta blocker. And a beta blocker is great for lowering your heart rate so it doesn't pump so fast. and it's great for your blood pressure. You know, my blood pressure came down considerably when I started taking the beta blocker. I didn't have to take the olmesartan, which isn't good for your kidneys. You know, those losartans not so good for your kidneys, etc. So I went on the beta blocker, and it seemed to be fine. I had no reaction to it, but I saw that my blood pressure numbers were really good. And it's a good thing to lower as you get older your heart rate because it tends to be too high, beats per minute. So I had the report from the echocardiogram, but it was cloudy, and the doctor, when he read it, immediately said that I need to I need to go over to the next building and redo the echocardiogram. The carotid artery was okay, that test, but I was putting off the stress test because I knew that would mean going off the beta blocker. And one time when I was working my part-time job, which I don't do anymore, I uh, I locked my medication in my part-time job and couldn't get to it to about 7 hours later when they opened in the morning, and I felt really, really weird not being able to take that beta blocker. It felt just strange, you know, like my goodness, what's going on inside me? I needed that drug, you know. You can't just stop taking a beta blocker. I guess you got to wean yourself off of it. But most people that go on it, and they go on it often later in life, they stay on it forever, you know. They stay on it forever. How much of a dose can come into play, but you're pretty much on it for life once you go on a beta blocker. And when they do a stress test with a treadmill, you can't be on it because they told me you could be on here all day and we wouldn't get the heart rate up. So you got to go off it for 24 hours and then get on a treadmill. And I thought, this is like a recipe for a stroke. I don't want to do this. So I convinced my cardiologist to let me skip that and go straight to the cath lab. This all happened in early 2019, and so they set me up, and that took like 6 7 weeks to get in to have the cath lab experience, and they basically put you under for that. Doctor was very good, and then right after it, my lady is there with me. They want someone that they can tell the results to because they feel you're kind of out of it. But I could understand what was going on. I was coming out of the mild anesthesia. They might have given me some propofol, you know, the milk, as Michael Jackson called it. He had too much. But the doctor comes and he tells me that my results are that I have a low ejection fraction, that I only have a 40% blood pump, 40%, and that two of my arteries are blocked. One is blocked 50%, and a little artery that you couldn't put a stent in if you wanted to, it's too dangerous, too small of an artery, is 70% blocked. He tells me all this in one swoop, and I'm shocked because in 2019, you know, even though I'm a serial cheater, I love the pizza, I love the sweets and what have you. Uh, I couldn't say, oh, how could this happen to me? You know, I knew how it happened to me. It happened too many times with the Italian food and too many times with the Milano cookies, et cetera, you know, too much of the wrong stuff. I was the criminal here, you know what I'm saying? So he tells me this, and um, I am going to go to the office, and they're going to tell me that I need to go on Entresto. Entresto is a wonderful drug. When I read about it, it said it's a life prolonging drug. Now, I'm 66 years old, hoping to live into my 70s and maybe 80s by the grace of God. And I don't want to hear that I'm on, like, you know, cancer drugs. This will help you live another year or two. May get some time at the beach. It may be quality, some of it, you know. It won't all be torture. You may get some quality, but so this Entresto is a life prolonging drug, and that was certainly got my attention. And they said that they only put a stent in when an artery is at least 70% blocked. I know an old rock and roller in a local rock band that 20 years ago was told that one of his arteries was 80% blocked and another was 90% blocked, not the little artery in there. So they could stent those arteries. And 20 years later, he's still singing rock and roll songs with his band well into his 70s, well into his 70s. And I'm thinking, man, so here they don't do anything except they put you, they tell you to watch your diet. And the number one thing, if you get a low ejection fraction diagnosis, is get moving. You'll see that on the internet videos. You'll see that. Um, you have to get moving. You have to be, even though your heart rate, if you're on a beta blocker, isn't going to come up to a high rate, it's great that you're breathing heavy and if you're able to do that, get moving. And I read that all over the place when I went on YouTube and I started trying to read about low ejection fraction. Because I remember I asked the cardiologist, my cardiologist, I said, well, this wouldn't lead to a sudden death, a heart attack, right? Right? And he said, well, that uh, totally terrified me. But he was trying to do that. He was trying to make sure I understood that I had to be a part of it. As he said to me, Mr. Willard, he pronounces it Willard or maybe even Villard, I cannot do this alone. I cannot do this alone. You have to help. So I had my cardiologist, but I also had a PA, physician assistant, who was working with the doctor who had done my catheterization. And so I saw him too, younger guy, and he was very helpful and very encouraging. And my main cardiologist, they put me on Entresto and also on a statin. I'm still on that statin. And then my cardiologist set me up for what's called a cardiac MRI. You need to get that if you have low ejection fraction because it is the most accurate reading of your ejection fraction because it can be all over the map. You can get false reads. You can get incorrect information. The catheterization process is very good, but when it comes to ejection fraction, it's not the best source. You need a cardiac MRI, which I had to wait weeks to get. And then I had to wait it's been almost 2 months, 2 months to get the results. They send them off to somebody in Chicago and they're backlogged and have you. And so I waited 2 months, but I just didn't sit around in those 2 months. I drank more water. I ate less of the foods that I love so much. I did cheat. I still do, but I a lot better than I used to be. And water is very important. Sleep. I'm doing this video in the middle of the night. I've just done a Bob Joyce Elvis video, which is going to get a lot more hits than this. One of the ones got almost 32,000. I don't think we'll make it with this. It's a specialized video, but I'm hoping that you will spread the word and help me spread the word on this video because I know when I looked around on the internet for low ejection fraction information and saw some of these videos, I didn't get the answers that I was looking for. I didn't get the answers at all. I heard information like, well, when you have low ejection fraction, which is a form of heart failure, it almost always gets worse. And I looked for individual testimonies, someone who would come on and say my ejection fraction was 40%, but I got it up to 50%. I thought, oh man, I want to get mine up to 50 because that would be good enough, 50 would be good enough. And the Entresto would be helping because what Entresto does is it kind of softens your arteries and makes the blood flow better, you know. And there are things that you also can take like cinnamon, garlic, and ginger. Get those ginger tea bags, put it in. I put in with my regular tea because I love the taste of my Tetley tea, you know. So I did that, and then I started moving, uh, getting out there. And not far from me is a former psych center that now is partly abandoned buildings, and also now there's a drug rehab there. There's a homeless shelter there, and there's a lot of Chinese Korean property. They have a dance studio, they have a college, so a lot of it is rented, but some of the buildings are still abandoned, and you can walk there. And there's some hills. It starts off with the way I go with a hill, and I'm walking. I'm not power walking per se. I'm not going to try to, risk too much here, but I'm not feeling any pain as I do it in my chest. Now, also, the doctor gave me nitroglycerin pills to carry. And what you would do is you would put one under your tongue. If you think you're having a heart attack in the course of 15 minutes while you're waiting for the ambulance, and hopefully you're able to call one or someone calls one, you know what I'm saying? All the fear of this, you can use up to 3 nitroglycerin pills, and you also take an aspirin. I would literally carry loose aspirin, full strength, in my shirt pocket, and I'd have the nitroglycerin in my pants pocket, my shorts. I usually wear shorts unless it's really cold, and I do live in a place where in January you can't wear shorts. It was crazy cold, and so I'm ready to take that, and I have a bottle of water with me too. It's sometimes chilled and sometimes not, and so I feel I have something. Now, if my ejection fraction had been 35% or lower, they would have set me up to be implanted with a defibrillator, because it's the only chance you're going to have if you go into cardiac arrest. But if you're 40%, they don't. Just like they don't stent if you're 50% blocked or 60% blocked. I think it's kind of almost unfair, but there is a risk involved with that. But they do it commonly now. So I start walking, and it's I guess about maybe 3 miles, and then I see there's certain inclines in some places, maybe 25 feet, and I decide to start jogging up those inclines, and then I stop and I'm breathing heavy, and that means I feel that even though my heart rate isn't going to get up to a number that would be good enough if I was taking a stress test, um, it the the heavy breathing is helping my blood pump. It's helping my blood pump. So I did that, and I tried to do it 5 or 6 days a week. They say do it at least 3. That wasn't enough for me. I'm trying to save my life here, but only by the grace of God, because He controls my next breath. I'm a person of faith as much as I'm also a sinner. So I know that. I know that. I can't control my own destiny, but I can sure get off my butt and get up there and start walking and doing a little jogging and what have you. And I started to get used to it. Now, I have arthritis in my knees and in my back. But boy, when you get moving, and this was true when I was doing my part-time physical job, when I was semi-retired, um, the fact that I was doing a physical job helped me. I didn't have that much pain from my what is described as bad arthritis in my knees and in my back. And it's true to this day, as long as you're out there moving, if you can do it. So I was out there, and I would be out there for about an hour or so a day. And if it was warm, you work up a sweat, and that's always good, and doing a little bit of jogging, as I say. So on May 9th of 2022, I finally got in to do my cardiac MRI, which is about a 40-minute procedure. I'm not thrilled to be in an MRI machine. They don't have music. And he's giving you lots of commands to hold your breath and what have you. It must be 30, 40 times he says it. But he's right there. I mean, he's not with you in the machine, but he's close by. And you have your button if you can't do it. But you don't have those kind of thoughts. You don't allow yourself to have oh, I can't take this. This is important. And you think about anything you can. You pray. You think about something beautiful in your life. Yeah, you can even think about happy times if you have to. Whatever it takes to get through the procedure. And then he let me know there'd be at least a couple of weeks because they send these out. Well, it was almost 2 months. Almost 2 months. Finally, I was able to make an appointment with my PA, because it's hard to get in to see my cardiologist. I can't see him like in 3 or 4 days like I can the PA. And I got my results. Excuse me. Let me have a little sip of my Gatorade Zero here. So I got my results today for my low ejection fraction. As I said to you, I was hoping it would be 50%, and I sure was hoping that it wouldn't be 35%. And here comes the defibrillator, and yeah, I can forget about pretty much living into my 70s now. He looked at me, and my lady was right there with me, and he said, I have good news for you. I don't deserve good news, folks. Not really. I failed God way too many times. He says, your ejection fraction is 74%. Your heart is beating fine. 66 years old, 74%, really good. And you don't need to be on the Entresto anymore. You don't need to be on it. And you don't need to be on that water pill because that can make your blood pressure too low. Because what's happening now is they had doubled my beta blocker to 50 milligrams, and now my blood pressure's a little low. And I'm a little worried about that. He said, well, stop taking the Entresto and stop taking the water pill because that can lower blood pressure as well. And we'll decide in a month whether we need to lower your beta blocker. But 74%, you can get out there and exercise, no problem. I had told him I had a little chest pain, a little soreness, a little pain in my left arm sometimes. You don't know. Sometimes you've created it psychosomatic. He said, but you shouldn't be having a problem, not with a 74% ejection fraction. And I hadn't heard any stories like that on the internet. I hadn't heard that you go down to 40, which is 5 points away from needing a defibrillator implanted, and you could get back up to 74%. There was no video like that to encourage me. Now, the reading that I got in the cath lab could have been way off. That I got to be honest about that. It could have been much higher than 40%. But the cardiac MRI, which they do it at this practice that I go to, but they don't do it at the local hospital, and it's a medical center. They don't do it there. They don't do it at a bigger medical place that is here in the city that I live in. They don't do it there. This is where they do it. And you have to wait a long time to get it and a long time for results. But 74% cured. My dad, who's pictured here like 1960 with me, that's my dad. I only knew him till I was 11 years old, and then he passed away of a heart attack. He had heart issues. Here he only has like 7 years to live. 7 years to live right here. But he's so robust there, New York City plumber. And so I remembered my dad, and I said, gee, am I going to make it? I got to make it to October of 2023 just to equal where my dad made it to, because he died in 67 at age 67. I was 11. But wow, I just have to give glory to God. Undeserved, amazing grace. 74%. Now, the 50% blockage is still there. The 70% blockage is still there. The idea is don't increase the blockage. Don't go crazy on the wrong foods. You can have some of them, have a lot of water, and get out there and do your exercise if you're able. Pass this on to someone who may have had this diagnosis and now they are scared to death, as I was, scared to death. I mean, the old saying is everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die to get there. Low ejection fraction cured. I am so grateful to God. Comment here. Please subscribe if you like this video, and please share it with those who need to see it. Low ejection fraction cured. Amazing. God bless you.